sound. Can we do a sound check for me, first of all? Is that okay? All right, and is everybody else, why don't, maybe we should just go through, make sure the sound's all right. Joe, we've got two, do we have a quorum? Yeah, we've got Jim and Joe. Joe, can you speak?
Yep. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Okay, you're breaking up a little for me. And Paul?
Yes, I'm loud and clear.
That's good. Rashir?
Hi, yeah, I'm right here. I can hear everything, see
Okay.
everyone. Thank you.
You're the best one so far for me. And who else is here?
I'm on here, Phil. It's Faye.
Yeah, Faye. Yeah, you're coming through. What other member? We've got a quorum because we've got two. Jim is there. We've got Rashir, Joe, Jim. That's helps a quorum. Okay, we've got. Are we missing anyone? Sharon. Is Sharon on?
Not yet.
No. I guess we've got everybody then except Sharon.
Sharon sends her regrets. She will not be in attendance today.
All right, thanks. So, so I'm calling it to order. Adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a move and second. All in favor of the agenda? Anyone opposed? Okay, if I don't see I'm trying to look at everybody, but I think we're all right. Okay, so the adoption. Now, the adoption of the minutes. I don't want to take a lot of time on this, but I know I had a little concern that I think we're not going to have a big discussion about it. I think we're going to have to come back to it, perhaps at the next meeting, about how we handle minutes. But given the minutes that we have now, do we have anybody want to move the minutes? Move it?
Sure, I'll move the minutes.
Shear.
Second.
Okay, Paul second. So let's have a quick discussion on how we can deal with some issues. One that I raised, and I believe Paul or Rashir also raised a concern with them. And it's about the form and wording, some wording. Was it Paul or Rashir that, okay. Well, let me start because I think I initiated a concern about the minutes. It wasn't about what was said, but about how it was attributed. And if we can do a quick clarification and correct and perhaps change to address it, then we can come back later at another meeting, perhaps the next meeting, on how we report what is done. So we've morphed over time between at one point last year where we were doing very detailed questions and answers attributed to different people. Now we have, if we can look at the page 2, an example being where under 4.1 on the Kent Street, it says the panel requested clarification, and it really wasn't the panel, it was an individual member of the panel. And then it goes down, and the point I was raising, and then in that first dash or bullet, it says the panel recommended using a different material. So that's a very general statement about the panel, and I don't think it's entirely picky because other people may be reading this, including counsel, and not fully understanding how we operate. To me, that was an individual member of the panel. So I'm going to propose, or at least throw out there, not with a motion for an amendment to get started. Perhaps it's better that we simply say wherever it says the panel, it says a member of the panel.
That's a good idea. Can
we just, and then is that, I think wherever that works, and I've gone through and it seems to work that way because it's only under 4.1. I think it works well throughout. And when it goes to the recommendation, though, it can say that the panel, about what the recommendation is coming from the panel. So will that work? I think Rashir or Paul suggested that a person should be named if they did that. So my suggestion is a member of the panel without naming them. Anne, do you have a comment?
Thank you very much. I think your
compromise with a member of the panel is from a staff perspective reasonable. The minutes are likely following a corporate standard, which I'm certainly happy to confirm for the upcoming meeting next time around. So I think this is a good approach from a staff perspective for this particular set of minutes.
Okay. Does anybody have a question about that? And clearly, one of the points is these are all videotaped. So if somebody was really interested in, well, who the heck said that? And I've done that before. I've said, when something came back, I was wondering how that was, how a conversation took place or discussion. So for now, then I'm going to, unless I hear a difference, I'm going to move that we, an amendment to not just adopting the minutes, but that we adopt them subject to changing where it says the panel, it's except where the recommendation, but where the issue of the comments in under 4.1 and 4.2, that it say a member of the panel. Anybody want to second that amendment?
I'll second
I'll
it.
second it.
Go. So I'm gonna, can we just, thank you. Can we move that the minutes as amended get approved? Is that anybody object to that? Proceed that?
One thing I would like to say in the past, that the chair never made a motion. He asked one of the members to move it, and then it was seconded by another member. Usually, isn't that the protocol of these things? I don't know.
I'm perfectly happy to do that. I don't know if we've ever done that, but I'm happy to never make a motion.
Well,
So Paul,
it's just the usual thing. I don't know. I'm not an expert on committees and how that works, but
yeah, I think a chair can make a motion, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. So Paul, I gather by that comment, you're moving the motion?
yes.
Okay, and I think Faye is seconding it.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder. So let's take any comments, questions? All right, a vote on the amended minutes, adoption of the amended minutes. Everybody in favor? Who's in favor?
Yes. Yep.
All right, anybody opposed? No. Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you. So now let's go to the application submission, and is it gonna be Anne or Alex that's gonna be doing are you gonna start, or is it gonna be the?
It's going to be me to start, and then I'll hand it over to the applicant if that's okay with the chair.
Certainly is. I will say that after you do whatever I hope everybody's read your memo, that there may be some questions from the panel before we go to the applicant, or may have to come back to you later. And I've neglected to say, nice to meet you and Anne. All right. So go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so I will share my screen with everybody. Are we good? Everyone seeing it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So the purpose of this report is to present the ADP with a summary of revisions based on the feedback and suggestions that were received on July 20th, 2021. The proposed townhouse residential project is located at 1453 State Road between North Bluff and Thrift, and I'm just going to give you a very high overview of the project because the applicant will be able to go in more detail in their presentation of the changes that have been made. So this is just an overview. The lot area is about just over 34,000 square feet. The OCP designation is urban neighborhood. It's being proposed, the rezoning is proposed as a CD zone. And the forming character DP that we are focusing on today is multifamily development. So they made a number of revisions to the application, and as the chair alluded to, I summarized them in the memo to the committee. So they did remove one unit to reduce the density. They did create an outdoor amenity area. they reconfigured the floor layout of the block 2 of the site plan. So now there are 4 units in block 2, and previously there were 5, and they also provided revised elevations, and they regenerated the shadow study. So in terms of how this aligns with our policies, this property is an OCP land use designation, as I said before, urban neighborhood, which is intended to build on the existing character of apartment areas, protecting the existing single-family home stock while providing opportunities for more low-scale multi-residents within walking distance of the town center as designated in our OCP. So potential developments in this area should strengthen nearby commercial uses and provide further transition from the town center to the lower town center. And the density allowed is up to 1.5 FAR. So in terms of the design guidelines, the intent of the design guidelines are to establish an attractive, comfortable, well-connected, pedestrian-oriented environment, ensure that there's compatibility of new developments with adjacent buildings, so it's fitting in with the current form and character of the neighborhood, enhance the overall quality of life of the residents of White Rock, conserve energy and water and reduce GHG emissions, and enhance, again, the character and built environment and public realm of the city. So I'll just give you an overview of the process. So this did go to public information meeting December 9th, 2020. The first time the ADP reviewed this was July 20th, 2021, and today will be the second will be the revised plan. And then the next step would be to go to the Land Use and Planning Committee. So it's at this time that staff is looking for a recommendation of support based on the revisions. Staff feels that it does meet the intent of the design guidelines. So that's where I'll leave my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the memo or hand it over to the applicant.
Okay, are there any, I can't see because of the screen share, I can't see everybody, that's all right. Is there anybody have any questions for Alex? I have one, but I'll first see if anyone. All right, I'll go. And my question is, you say it's 1.5 FAR. Does this proposal before us today, the revised proposal, meet the 1.5 FAR?
Yeah. Yes, yep. Through the chair, yes, it does. Okay,
and are there any other OCP or zoning? Well, it's zoned for 1 unit residential now. Yeah. So I guess the question is, there are some, by going to a comprehensive development zone, there are no zoning rules. Is that right? I mean, if it goes to comprehensive development, I'm not an expert.
So through the chair, a comprehensive development zone is for larger projects that we use a stock zone within our zoning bylaw to design a zone that fits.
So that's an example. That would be the parking requirements would be an example of that.
Yeah, yes, exactly. So we would compare the parking requirements to the general parking requirements in our zoning bylaw, and if we felt that they needed more parking, then we would discuss that with the applicant. But okay. At this time, staff is satisfied with the applicant's application meeting the zoning bylaw requirements for a CD. So
and the OC, okay. So we'll go to, and I want to thank you for the memo. I hope that helped other people. Certainly helped me. And between that and our previous minutes from July 20th, I think are an important place for us I guess to start with when we hear the applicant. Jim, are you there? Jim?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
I can't see. Okay, my question, Jim, you're new to this. The only who wasn't. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with the information you have, because this is a second time around for the rest of us. So you're okay? No questions?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, from what was submitted and the explanation and the minutes from the last meeting, I feel comfortable. I have enough information. Thanks.
Okay, so unless another member of the panel has a comment or question, we'll move to the applicant. And I assume that the applicant, because this is about a change, it would be about 20 minutes or less to, or is that reasonable? And then we'll have questions and comments. Okay, thank you. So I'll turn it over to could you introduce, whoever's going to speak for the applicant, introduce yourself?
Hi there. We're Telia Pacific Architecture, the architects of the project. I'm Brian Chigatomi. We've got Jesse Aurora, the principal of the firm, and Zubin Bilmoria. I believe Travis from the landscape side is here to talk about the landscaping as well. And we also have the clients here just watching what's going on. I think I can just pop up the screen share. Why don't we go to ADP 0.6? I think we'll just focus on the changes from the previous application. I think that'd probably be the easiest thing to do. We did go from 21 units down to 20. I think it's, keep going. Oh, back. There you go. No, you keep asking. There. Okay, so I think there's a question around the FSR meeting the OCP requirement 1.5. We're actually at 0.938. If you take the density relative to gross site, it's actually lower. It's 0.905. This project goes back quite a ways. It was originally a 4-story condominium building. At that time, we're conforming with the proposed OCP and direction from some of the members of council that they'd like to see an apartment project there. It was actually proposed at 50 units and 1.41, so this is substantially lower in density. Now we're down to 20 units and a density that's under 1. Well, that site plan there. So the big change from the last presentation is on block 2. It's gone from 5 units to 4 units, so 21 units down to 20. I think the landscape architect can also talk about the addition of that green space in the center. We did have the green space on the northeast corner, but now we have a larger one that's actually situated in the center of the site. And we still have the one in the northeast and northwest corner, so it's augmenting the amount of available outdoor space. Architecturally, the mass of block 2 has changed a little bit. By taking down 1 unit, they got a little bit wider, so it's a little different unit. The outside treatments haven't really changed. There was some discussion about increasing the usable roof area, so that's definitely a possibility. In block 3, the neighborhood was, especially the neighbors to the west, were looking at reducing the amount of outdoor space of the individual units by about half, and then providing a privacy screen, an acoustical barrier between the neighborhood and the units. So that's the way it was treated. I think in the last discussion of the ADP was about expanding that space, so we can definitely do that, and then move the screen over and provide the acoustical barrier that the neighborhood want. I think that's pretty much it relative to what was done before. And Travis, if you want to just touch on the landscaping changes, we'll just load up the landscape drawings for you.
Sure thing. All right, thanks, Brian. Yeah, as noted, we now have 3 green spaces. The front corner amenity, which is basically the play area, and we were asked to enclose that, so we've added gates to that little space. We have the northwest corner seating node, that was there before, and now that links down into this center green space node. And so, yeah, it's a bit more well connected through the project. The entry driveway has this special paving, and then that paving is also continued at the center node now. So it broadens the feeling of that space. And so with the reduction of that unit, we were able to add some seating for either people who want to hang out or just take some alone time. We're also able to fit a larger tree. We have kind of two focal trees. They're both pin oaks on the project, and that'll kind of govern over the space and provide that central green feature. This is also where we have our bike parking and visitor parking at the end of this pedestrian walkway, which accesses the houses in blocks 2 and 3. So that's the big change in the middle of this site. At the last meeting, there's a couple questions, and I thought I should probably clarify that again. Along the frontage here, we're meeting the setback requirements. However, the road may be widened in the future, and so we've ensured that all of our landscaping is sitting behind the potential new property line, which has a 2-meter takeaway on the front edge there. So we have fastigiate trees and sort of layered planting there. They'll provide a nice landscape base along the frontage. Just in the bottom right corner here, you can see this is a section through the central walkway that we were just talking about before. So got some low hedging that provides a bit of screening, but also nice greenery through that center space. Yeah, next slide. And here's just, again, a little zoom in of the play area. It has a sandbox and a deck with a little playhouse and a nice little bench that overlooks that conveniently, and just surrounded by greenery and low fencing. Next slide, please. And yeah, a bit more information on the sections. So the two on the left are the frontage, one just right through the yard, which is simply lawn, and then some planting and trees within the future property line. And the other one shows how the staircase is also within that future property line, and yeah, provides a nice frontage. The bottom right corner here is the north section. And so we do have a commercial building along our north property line. And so we're buffering that with U hedging before the main east-west walkway. And there's a few stairs down to the entries to those dwellings. And I think that's all we need to talk about for the landscape right now. Let's wait for questions.
Thank you. I'm going to see if Jim, who's new, would you rather wait until you want to go first, or would you like to wait until toward the end?
No, I can go now. That's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, let's keep it to questions for clarification, not comments.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, no, yeah, I have no questions at this time then.
No questions. Okay. Paul, do you have anything?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. Faye, any questions?
I do have a question. So if you can pull up the play area again. So the play area was not moved. Is that correct? Because it was at the front overlooking State.
You're correct, through the chair. It was not moved. It's in the same location, but it's now fenced, and it has a green buffer around it to help provide a bit of visible separation.
Yeah, it's still a concern for me having that amenity area there in the front backing onto Thrift. Based on the design that you have, it's for little children, probably toddlers. If you've got a sand pit and a little playhouse, you're not going to really attract an 8-year-old in that area. But that's a very, very busy area. The commercial property that the development is backing onto, I know it personally because my daughter teaches at that dance school and both of my grandchildren attend. You cannot even pull in right now. That whole area will be a nightmare with cars.
If Faye,
So I brought it up before. Oh, I'm asking.
no, Faye, could you be, first of all, be clearer about, I mean, I do want to get concerned later. I want to get back. We need, you're getting.
Mike, I would just
What
like
is the issue?
clarification on why was that amenity area not taken to the back of the development?
Okay.
Does that make sense? Sorry.
I got it. But can I just ask you, with the gates on it now, is that still the two gates? Is that still does that address part of your issue? Is it, given where it is now with this proposal, do you have any questions about that? I did, about the gates, until I saw them here.
Yeah. I'm just not, I'm personally not comfortable where it's located because
Okay.
it backs onto a very busy street, but.
Yeah, okay. Rush, is there any other questions, Faye?
No.
Okay, Rushir, I'll get to Joe late in a minute. Rushir? Or did I already ask Rushir? Is he there? Rushir, did we lose you?
I think he dropped off.
Yeah.
Let's hope that he comes back. Did you see him drop off, or didn't say anything, did he?
He's not on the list anymore.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Joe and hope Rushir comes back.
Hopefully. Yeah, just one question relating to that area that Faye was talking about, to the landscape architect. You mentioned that there's some shrubbery screening there, but you also in the same sentence talked about that 2 meter potential road dedication. So the question is, if the road dedication is realized, I'm assuming that there'll be no green buffer between this area and State Road. Was that
through the chair? Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
There'll be a 3-rail fence sort of dividing it for a portion, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get clear, because that was an area for me, but I was focused more on the at the townhomes, on the units. But in here, could you use your, no, go back to where you just were. You've got cross sections for the others, which is good. But here, could you use your pointer to show where the property line is? The dark, is that the property line?
Yes, that's the property line there.
Okay, so the road the right of way, the 2 meters goes to the red or to halfway to the red?
It's I think can you go to the architectural site plan?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
In there.
Goes to the red.
It goes to the red.
Yeah.
Yes, the area that's hatched on our drawing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see the front setback of 1.5 meters, and then the secondary middle dotted line is the right of way.
I understood that on this design, but could you go back to the previous one? There, it's just for clarity, I don't know where the 2 meters is. The 2 meters include. It is
the red hat. The diagonal hatched area is with that 2 meter zone. So the line aligns with the red dashed line.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that with a question because we have a design with and without the right of way being used. Okay. Any other questions? Has Rushir come back yet? Could I ask, is there a way of seeing perhaps Alex or someone, I don't know if one of the staff members could email him and see if there's.
I can send him an email.
Okay. Okay, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. So any other questions before we go to me? All right. So I've got questions that focus on a couple that come back to the same issue that Joe and to some extent Faye about it's really related to the setback. And I will admit that when we had in last July, when we were talking about this and about the 2 meter right of way and the 1.5 meter setback, I think that was the first time we heard from staff, at least the time I heard from staff, about the possibility of, could someone mute, if you could mute, getting a lot of feedback. Okay, thank you. About the right of way and the widening of the road, and I know that Joe and I raised concerns about the 1.5 meter setback, and I've now, as a sort of introduction to my questions, which may go trying to get real clarity, because I don't think I had it before, about the setback along State Road, with and without the widening of the road. So could we go down to the cross section? I think it's on this, the cross section 2 that you, so if every, yeah, or 2 or 3, 2, let's go to cross section 3. That's the next page, I think. Or is it?
That,
section
3 is the north property boundary.
Yeah. No, not the cross section. Yeah. Section 2, rather, section 2. That's it. So, could you move that up a tiny bit? Section, so that we're all on the same page about. Sorry, the reason I have my controls that are. That's much better. Thank you. So the property is the fence, and I've looked at this site several times. Is the fence that's there now on the property line?
Hello. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Irish here.
Older Shear is here.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. It just kicked me out and wasn't allowing me to log back in.
Well, you're here, so you know what I'm going to do is I was just starting my questioning, and I think I'm going to go. Are you ready to question? It's just questions,
Yes,
not comments.
I have one question, and if you could lead me to the site plan, especially if you do have an off-site site plan that we had a little concern last time with. On State Road, if you know, there's a elaborate boulevard and there are some existing inset parallel parking spots, etc. And last time it appeared that a civil input was not available. Actually, we did not know how the outside the site is going to look like. Just was looking forward to seeing if we had more information on that this time, where the curb, the boulevard, the planting, the sidewalk, everything, where the fencing is, all that stuff, and what kind of planting, hedging, etc., is towards the State Road.
Sorry, unfortunately, I didn't prepare for that. There is civil drawings. The client could probably speak to that as well. And it's part of the offsite servicing agreement, which is including curbs, sidewalks, and that sort of thing. But I don't know if we can access our server to get that drawing.
Okay, just wanted to basically get a feel of how the development is going to look from the outside,
Right.
what the treatment, the interface is. There's going to be a shrub, a sandwiched fence. What is it going to be? What kind of trees? What kind of profile of the curb, etc. Actually, I believe we talked about it in the last presentation as well. And I was looking to see through the package if we got more information. Just on your rendering, if you see from the front, you see a bunch of shrubs and stuff. But I would like to know more how the property, or rather the project, looks from the outside.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't access it. So I think that curb path, the multi-purpose path, is
because if you see the path here where your cursor is, doesn't look like it's a civil kind of a layout. It's irregular. It probably seems to be either an existing asphalt profile or something. I don't see where the boulevard, the parallel parking spots on State Road, the way they are, etc. So if you can continue looking for it while we work through the presentation, maybe that's a good idea.
Let me just, Joe has a comment or a question, so let's go to him. Maybe it's because I also, Rashir, this is exactly where I was going with my questions. Very clarity about that. So let's go to Joe. See if he can.
Thanks, Phil. And this is also just building on that. And I think maybe the question is to Alex or Anne. Is there a development standard or a future cross-section that State Road is aspiring to? Because right now it looks a little bit fictional, or it's really predicated on State Road not meeting its full development potential. So does the city of White Rock have a cross-section that we can refer to? Will there be bike lanes, for example, parking? Like, what is this particular road classification, and what would it yield in terms of cross-section?
Okay, I think, thank you. The same question I was going to ask, not to ask the drawings. I think we may be able to get enough clarity by just simply asking.
Is there a possibility that I can quickly share my screen, or somebody else, whosoever has control, goes to Google and just types 1453 State Road and shows us how the profile is there? I can see a rollover curb, and I can see parking spots and all that stuff there as they exist right now. Well, and we can maybe you can talk to it as we go along.
Are you? Is that your?
You can see the. Can you see those drawings?
Yeah, you can just go to Google and Google Maps and 1453 State Road, and yeah.
So we've got the civil drawings for you.
Sure.
So I don't know if you can see the screen now.
Yes, thank you.
So this is the existing condition with the existing sort of wavering asphalt which is going across, which is a sidewalk, which I think is a multi-purpose one. I can even open up Google and maybe share that for you.
Yeah, that'll be great. That'll be great, because I see a rollover curb and a parking in front there.
There's an indentation for about 2 parking spots now on State Road.
Yes.
That would, if there's no widening of the road, in other words, then those parking spots would be lost.
Yes, if you can go on that image and maybe, yes, just the image on the left.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can see this, and if you want the image.
That's right. That's the one. Yeah. If you just scroll a little bit, other side. That's what we're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, and that's where the entrance would be to where the driveway in.
Correct. So if you see this, Rucha, just to get you an idea, what we've done is, if you can see, once again, I'm trying to, okay. In our architecture, you see this is the let down. This is the 2 parking stalls here.
Yes.
And it's going to be eliminated to give an entrance to the development.
Sure.
So basically that would be revised later on. But right now that's the current condition. And we will be taking an entrance over there. So I don't think these offsite parkings would remain in the future.
Sure. Okay. And if we can quickly bring on your screen the civil layout once again, which you just showed.
So that's what he says, existing parking layout lay-by to be removed, install topsoil and soil boulevard. That's what he.
Is there, do you have another profile in which the curb profile going south is shown? Not really.
No, not really.
Okay.
There was comments about what this road is classified as, and it's classified as an arterial road. And we would do through the rezoning process, we would refer out to engineering, and this would be something that they would deal with at that point through their works and services agreement.
I would propose if we let Travis talk about what is he proposing in terms of where the yards end, where it meets the boulevard, where the asphalt sidewalk meanders and all that stuff. Yeah, is there any planting, hedging, etc. at the how the treatment of the property edge is?
Okay. Great. Thank you, Rashir.
Don't move that. Could you just keep it on there for a minute?
So I think what's important to realize is that right now we seem to be planning for the existing condition, which is that this multi-use path stays in place and the boulevard stays in place and gets expanded around the driveway entry. But my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's possible this road will be widened in the future, which is why we have this 2-meter wide right-of-way that's shown in that diagonal red hatch. And so we're planning to have 2 layers of planting along the front of this building, a lower and a back sort of evergreens to give a nice landscape treatment to the front of the building, and also have our trees planted again within the 1.5 meter remaining frontage when that would happen. At this point, we have a 3.5 meter setback from the property line to the building face. Brian, I'm not sure if you have anything you'd like to add to this.
You know, we have pathway connections to individual units going in the multi-purpose path, but, you know, I suspect eventually if the road does get widened, it'll be just a straight municipal sidewalk that's running along the, where the service right of way would be currently.
Sorry, I didn't, because of where your mic is located, I didn't understand the last few words. Could you show with the pointer, with your cursor, where is, I know where the right of way is, it's just the 2 meters right there, right there. Where would if the road is widened, where would the public sidewalk be?
I would suspect it would be within somewhere in that service right of way, so it's the possibility that could be running there, but again, the street profile would be as determined by the city engineer. So that walkway may be not exactly where the 2 meters. They may want a landscape strip, then a sidewalk, and then another landscape strip and the curb. So depending on what their road profile would be when it expands.
Okay, I think that's getting to the point that Rashir and I think possibly Joe had questions last time about this and about the planting, basically the setback and but okay, Joe, do you have, Rashir rather, do you have more questions?
Yeah, still a little unclear how that treatment is going to be. Is there for the time being, is there a fence proposed there? Or?
No, please switch to the next page, one after. I think, Rushi, did you miss this part of the presentation? Possibly one page over. We have a section, sorry, the 3rd page, one more down, that shows the frontage here. So essentially, in these 2 on the left, you can see we have 1.5 meters with 2 rows of planting along the building face. And then, yeah, the 2 meter right of way there, it could be back boulevard, which could be planted. It may be a public sidewalk, all determined by the city of White Rock in the future.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, thank you. So basically nothing has been thought about how the treatment of the interface is going to be, deferring to the right of way situation, which is unclear at this time.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so a quick question to the city. Is there a type of treatment, the planting, the boulevard trees, etc., that we do have standards on, especially when we have multiple yards opening on to street facing units like this one? Because we don't see any trees or anything else, or what the spacing or species of those trees are going to be?
Through the chair, I can't speak to species in detail, but we do have tree planting specifications, and everything would be done under the guidance of our city's arborist.
Sure.
And then, of course, it would come down to maintenance and, what is the best trees to plant in a boulevard in terms of root growth, et cetera. So we do have a professional on staff that would work through the engineering department if we chose to widen the road and redo that area.
So if I understand clearly, it's not clear right now where those trees are going to be. In the section that we have on the screen right now, we've got a sidewalk and we've got a little bit of green area, and then we've got dedication, which is hatched, and then the shrubs and the building start. Property line is probably the right, we see the property line there. So outside the property line, in the boulevard, like we typically have on a boulevard treatment, do we know where that line of trees is going to be, etc., or that's unclear at this stage?
Through the chair, we did refer this out to our engineering department to review. They did request that we do the standard 2-meter widening, but in our capital plans, we have no plans to widen this road for the next 10 years. So I think I can't answer those questions because we're kind of talking in hypotheticals. But I can assure you that if we did choose to widen that road, we would go through a process between the arborist, the city planning department, and the engineering department to figure out what was the best way to widen that street and keep elements of that current boulevard intact as much as possible. The 2-meter wide way is it's a precaution. Just as things change, we have the ability to widen the road if it does need to be widened. But we don't have any comments from engineering indicating that that's happening anytime soon. And typically we do plan our capital plans out like 10 plus years in advance, because the replacement of widening of a road is very, very costly, and it's something that we need to budget for.
So based on that, if the section that we have on screen as we speak, if those 2 meters are indeed consumed by the road or boulevard or sidewalk or anything else, the steps would be next to the sidewalk, or we would not have any space left. If you see the building, it's rather even less than 2 meters then to outside of the wall, maybe meter and a quarter. Am I correct?
Yeah, and through the chair, that's not uncommon. You see that with people whose steps come right down to the sidewalk here in White Rock.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Let me go to Joe and Paul. Let's just on this topic. Well, first of all, Rishi, are you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, so let's go to Joe.
Yeah, thanks.
And I assume it's on this topic.
It is. It's not really a question, just to throw in a few words here. I think that some of the complexity with this particular arterial, if I'm not mistaken, is it's the demising arterial between Surrey and White Rock, right? So typically when we're looking at jurisdictions or roadways within singular jurisdictions, it's more straightforward in terms of what the development standards are going to be. Here I can understand that it's going to take some cooperation between municipalities, which is probably leading to some of this ambiguous development plans in the future for that road. Just an observation. Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, I just wondered about what kind of tree you'd be planting in that little setback. What is it, just over a meter?
Yeah, so we're planning on Ace or Armstrong.
And how big do they get?
They're quite narrow. So, I mean, they're tall and fastigiate. They're a bit more narrow than this kind. They're more like, long and tall. And so they'll get 20 feet tall, but I mean, a tree that's very old will possibly have a 10-foot diameter to it, but generally speaking, it takes a while to get there. And due to their structure, you could easily just be limbing out branches to give it, you know, the shape that you're looking for as it grows over time. It's something, even just next to my building here, I see it on the street. It's very common to just thin out the trees as necessary, but this is one of the most fastigiate, durable, tight trees that, and it's a nice maple too. So it does well in harder conditions, has nice fall color, things like that.
And just one other, that the image tends to be a little off-putting, but the other question I had is some of these steps going down to the units create a drainage issue. Is there some way of dealing with those sunken areas there between the slope and the building itself? A very narrow, what looks like a very narrow well. There doesn't seem to be an indication of how that's dealt with architecturally.
Yes, like through the chair, they will have individual drainage to ensure that each area is well drained.
To the chair, are you referencing the number 3 section between building 4 and the northern property line?
I'm sorry, I don't know who was making that comment or question?
Telia Pacific Architecture, just asking if you're referencing section number 3 on the landscape drawings, where there's steps down from an upper walkway. Yeah, for the lower areas, there will be area drains, you know, and then there'll be perimeter drainage as well on the basement of the foundation walls as well. But the surface water will be taken away by area drains. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Okay, before I go, I want to see if there anybody else has questions or questions, and then we'll get to comments later. All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to stay a little bit. A lot of my questions about state road frontage and setbacks have been addressed or answered, but I will say that a simple answer, you know, without knowing all of this is about the setback and the right of way, would be where. I mean, it's very standard what the width of a road is. And we could get easily, I would assume, knowing that if it's widened, where would the curb, the edge of the road be? And that way we would know what's the space. And you would think that the applicant should get that information, is where would the roads end, and how much space is there between the road and the what's the setback from the road, knowing that a sidewalk would have to be about 1.8 meters, and what's left. So is that something you would know now or could easily get? Without knowing what the planning is, at least knowing what the width is of that area.
We could check with the project civil engineer to see if they've had any of those discussions with the engineering department, but I don't believe there has been to date. They were asked to design it to the existing condition, which they've done, but in terms of where the shape of State Road in the future, I don't think they've ever had that feedback.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't expect a design to be done, and not only that, but you have the building to the north of you that is already there, that is probably getting close to that 2-meter right of way. But let's move off that, because I don't think it's questions anymore right now. I've got other areas of questions. I'll go through a few. Could you go to the north side? You stay on this one and zoom in on the north walk. Now, I'm glad to see, yeah, just zoom in on that. There, that's it. So the walk, I'm seeing various numbers in a few places, but I think it's now a setback of 4 meters between, that's what it shows, 4 meters. I want to confirm that because I saw some other numbers somewhere that it's 4 meters from the property line to the setback from the property line is 4 meters. Is that correct? I want a confirmation.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, so now in order to, within that, there's the, you have a cross section. Could you go to the cross section? You have, I think it's cross section 1 on a perhaps a different. I'm not sure it's this, it may be the one you were looking at before.
I think you're referring to the section 3 in the landscape drawing, the bottom right corner.
Section 3, sorry, section 3. Yeah, let's get that. So that doesn't quite add up to 4, but I'm not going to quibble over, but yeah, look at that. Now, so there's 0.75, 1.2, 1.49, let's say 1.5, and 0.9. It's not quite 4, but you know what? It's a lot more than I had understood last time. Here, so there seems to be some, what should I call it, inconsistency, which may add up to half a meter or so. So, just a comment. Here's my question. My question is, the design guidelines require walkways to be 1.8, and this is 1.22. This was raised in the last July meeting. Why is it, you're trying to squeeze an awful lot in there, and this is a question for you and maybe for some of our panel members, is what are the difference on a walkway between the significance of the difference between 1.22 or 1.2 meters for the walkway there, the sidewalk, versus the design guidelines that say minimum 1.8. I mean, is it a wheelchair issue? Two people can't walk a lot. Why 1.8 and only giving us 1.2 or 1.22?
If I may answer through the chair, I think 1.8 is ideal, and it allows wheelchairs to pass both ways. In this case, this isn't a wheelchair accessible building type, and so that isn't something necessarily to be accommodating in this case, but it is a guideline, and we're working to meet guidelines where we can, but it's not a zoning bylaw technicality to meet 1.8 meters. And so we've met 1.8 meters on more busy walkways along the south and through the center walkways within the project. But in this case, we felt that it's more important to provide a bit of greenery and an acceptable walkway to these few units, which will have very minimal traffic.
Okay. I mean, I'm not surprised by that answer because you've got squeezed space. I mean, that's space is at a premium here, and that's one place you could take it off. But now, to add to that issue is your landscaping or hedges, and it's the design guidelines specifically say not to put hedges. Which one is it? It's 22.6.2F. It says the planting of hedges directly adjacent to sidewalks is discouraged unless they are for screening for garbage. So, and again, maybe it's for Rushier or some others who are do these types of designs. I presume you don't want hedges there because it makes it more difficult to walk along. And when you've got 1.2 meters in a hedge, does that constrain you even, make it even the 1.2 even more problematic?
What, do you want me to say something?
Well, I'd like an answer, I guess, from the applicant, but I'd also, if Rushier has a view on this, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't see a problem here. I would like to have a hedge here. It's a property which abuts another property and a building rather close.
Don't get me wrong. I think the hedge is correct. The question is the hedge in combination with 1.2 meters. Is that present a problem?
It's not an accessible path of travel anyways, so 1.2 should be fine there. And so long as the strata maintains the hedge, I don't see a problem there, either in the hedge or the sidewalk being 1.2 wide.
Okay, that helps me. Thank you. I don't sort of getting confirmation from another panel member. So now I'd like to go to the parking issue. the visitor parking. I know that there is no formal requirement for number of visitor parking, but it's still an issue for the design panel. So if we can go to your site plan, the overall site plan, and zoom out a little bit, and we'll talk about yeah, that's perfect to begin with. So as we've talked about, without widening State Road, visitors on street, the only on-street parking would be about those two, the two that are there would be lost. And there's no on-street parking on State Road. So visitors would have to walk a great distance or go into one of the four. I'm telling you my interpretation, and then I'd like your response. Would have to go into four parking spots, two of which, one is handicapped, the other two are for small cars only, and the fourth one is down on the bottom left, which is sort of a hidden space, and when somebody's driving in, they won't even know if it's available or maybe even where it is. So my question, I'm sort of verging on a comment, which you can sort of sense, but I'm trying to follow my own rules and ask you a question, is why do you think that that's sufficient? I mean, that's sort of, the issue was raised last time. There's been no change. Why do you think that's sufficient? Where are visitors going to park?
I believe,
when I say visitors, I'm including service vehicles.
Yeah, I believe we are trying to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaws where we have, I think, 0.2 parkings per unit. We have 20 units, so we provided 4 parking visitor parkings as per the requirements. I understand your point where you're talking about having 2 smaller car parks, but I think that's the only leeway that is there. But we are.
Yeah, in actual fact, I believe there's no requirement for visitor parking stalls on the bylaw, but we provided 4.
I'm sorry, but we assume as a panel that the bylaws are adhered to. We are not restricted to that. Ours is about livability. It goes beyond that. So it was a concern that was raised last time. Is it possible for visitors to, if you zoom in, to park parallel at the entrances to a unit? So if I'm in unit, block 2 or block 3, and I've got a visitor coming, they can't park on the street. Can you hear me?
There is a small apron on the buildings, but there's certainly not the width of a car. In other townhouse developments, there's enough an apron you could park parallel to the front of the building. In the garage, there's enough depth, but in this case, there's not a lot. I think it varies between 3 to 5 feet in places. So if you did park parallel to the garage door, you would be protruding out into the asphalt area of the Strata Road.
I'm sorry, where could you zoom in on where give me an example of where somebody could park?
Yeah.
But they can't park.
Yeah, no, where the indicator is, there is a bit of a driveway apron at the in front of the garage door, but it's certainly not wide enough to fit a car. If you did park a car parallel to the garage door, it would actually protrude into the asphalt area.
Yeah, no, well, you know what, this is a strata, could work it out where if somebody's got a visitor and they pull over, and if you're at where your cursor is, if there's room for somebody to parallel park in front of a garage. It's not ideal, but sometimes stuff has to happen,
Yeah, it's long enough to fit a car, but when you've got to definitely jockey it in there, and you would be cutting into the width of the Strata Road available. So, whether or not people actually do that,
Well,
Yeah, I think another thing what we could do is, we could definitely give, maybe some signage indicating the visitor stall at the end of the drive aisle. I know it is a little bit tucked out, but that could be put in so that visitors could easily find that. Maybe a wayway sign indicating where the visitor parking stalls are. And yeah, I mean, so we tried to emphasize and get a little bit more parking than what even the bylaws state, with the explicit idea that we understand that everybody has come in.
Chair, while your concern about parking is very valid, the couple cars are not going to alleviate the situation of such a dense development. But what can designer do? If a bylaw doesn't cater to it, they've still gone over and beyond and provided a couple spots. There is not much more than a designer can do. I don't know whose problem it is, but yeah, this is a genuine problem. I understand. Probably the parking spots, additional parking spots, would be more valuable in this situation even than the common amenity space provided. But it's not designer's fault. They've complied and gone beyond and provided more than what was asked for.
Okay.
So this is a bigger question.
Let's not get into a disagreement within the panel right now. These are questions. Let's go down to the bottom. Is there, the bottom left where that, Paul, I'll get to you in a minute. The bottom right there, that spot. How would a car pull in and turn around there?
So we have given extra space than what is required. We've got almost 2 feet additional, if I'm not mistaken, for a car to back out. I know it would be a 3-point turn getting in and out, but there is additional leeway space given at that corner.
Sorry, I haven't, your sound is not clear to me.
Yeah, the parking space is wider than the requirement of the parking bylaw to help the maneuverability of a car. I think Zuba was pointing out to be a 3-point turn, almost like a hammerhead, because
it's 11 feet from here.
Yeah, so you can see it's actually wider.
So you can confirm that it would be?
Yes.
Yeah, and the client did actually have a traffic consultant review it at the very beginning. 2 things. One was the visitor parking stalls, but also for garbage pickup.
Okay, but I will comment though that if somebody is parked there and another car comes down in order to park in that and it's already taken, they have to back out.
They can do a 3-point turn because you got a little bit of an apron in front of the garages. The strata roads are 20 feet, so yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I've got that's it for my questions. I want to, there's some hands up. I'll go to, I guess it's Alex or somebody else. Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to be respectful of everyone's time, and when it comes to complex projects, we're supposed to limit the time to 90 minutes per project. So I just wanted to raise that.
Is there audio?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sorry, is Alex Alex, are you?
Yeah, I just reminded I was just saying that in terms of being respectful of everyone's time, I just wanted to we're supposed to limit it to 90 minutes per complex project, and we're kind of nearing the end of that. So I just wanted to remind the panel of that.
Oh.
You've muted yourself, Phil.
Paul? Sorry, Paul?
Yeah, I was just thinking on this whole issue of parking and what Rashir was saying, that there are issues the planning department is responsible for, and I don't think we have to get into rewriting some of the bylaws in the situation. So we can waste a lot of time dealing with that kind of minutia that I don't think we should have to do. Thank you.
Sorry, okay, any other comments or questions? Paul, so that's Paul that we just did, anyway. So if there are no, Jim, you've been quiet. Do you have any more? Or Faye? Questions for clarification? We've already gone into comments to some extent. Paul, your hand is still up. Do you want to speak again?
No, I'll put my hand down.
Okay. Faye, are you there?
I'm here. Without
you-
getting into a comment, I'm just going to ask the question.
Okay.
The max is 4 visitor parking spots, 2 of which are quite small. They're actually for like beside the kiosk, the electric kiosk. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And
Out of the 4, 2 are for electric and 1 is handicapped. So really, how many, when you do the count, it's 1.
Yeah, there's 1 EV stall at the bottom, and then the 2 visitor stalls are not EV stalls. And then there's a barrier-free stall up at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other panel?
Through the chair, as the applicant stated, and I think Rashir and Paul stated, there is no visitor parking requiremements in our zoning bylaw for a development of this density.
Yeah, I understand that.
So they are going above and beyond what is required of them.
Yeah, I understand that. Anybody else have a question? All right, let's go to comments then. We'll go around. Anybody want to volunteer to make comments to begin with? Otherwise, I'll call on people. Joe.
Thanks, Bill. Firstly, I would like to commend the applicants on being willing to reduce the number of units. I think that did make a difference in the end in terms of a little bit less site coverage, a little bit more green coverage. So thank you for that. At our last meeting, we had some concerns about the proximity of block 2 to block 3 privacy issues. Thank you for your cross sections. It helped alleviate a lot of those concerns. We've been so fixated on parking in sight, we didn't really talk about the building. Could you please just put up an elevation just so I can speak to it? There's no questions. It's just my there you go. Or yeah, that's perfect. So as you can see on the elevation on the bottom there, I do appreciate stepping down on the end, and it's perhaps something you might consider moving forward to step down on the other end as well, because they read quite tall to their neighbors. But that's just a comment. I would also say that the presentation is quite nice. I would have also appreciated, because you have a computer model already, appreciated some perspective views to really get a sense of the massing. Everything projected orthogonally to 2 dimensions is a bit, doesn't really give us a sense of how nice a development might be. So something to think about, including roof entourage. It's always understated. You're showing 3-foot guards or 3'6" guards up there, but we know there's going to be umbrellas and all sorts of other things up there. Mm-hmm. So those are all my positives. I'm not going to beat a dead horse other than to say I think that a 1.5 meter net setback on state is a little bit narrow, but it is what it is. If there's no finality on the development of State Road, then it is what it is. My last comment is nothing other than just an idea. Faye had mentioned concerns earlier about the common amenity space of playground being on state. One could just take block 4 and slide it forward to this similar setback as block 1 and move the visitor parking beside the accessible visitor one. So you wouldn't have a dead end there. And then put the amenity in the southwest corner. So basically switching, you follow what I mean, that top block.
Yeah, that's what.
Would just shift over, and then you could have two visitor parking side by side and nothing really changes. But I'm not designing the project. That's for you guys to consider. Overall, I'm pleased with where it's gone from where it's come from. And I look forward to the others' comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to volunteer second? Otherwise, I'll call someone. Paul.
I agree with all of what Joe has said, of course, and then in addition to that, as far as the roof terraces are concerned, I would like to see some sort of privacy screening between units, as you don't know what your neighbor is going to do next door in the way of umbrellas and other paraphernalia, and consider the slope of the stairway roofs in one area slope onto the area of the other. So there's some drainage issues, et cetera, but roof terraces are a tricky thing to deal with architecturally and physically. So a lot of attention needs to be paid to that. But the issue of privacy, I think, is important. To me, the rest of it, I'm really glad to see that the units have improved quite a bit over the last presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Somebody want to volunteer? Jim, are you there, or Faye? Who hasn't gone? Faye, do you want to go next?
Sure. I agree. Just want to make sure I'm not on mute. I agree with all the comments. I think there is improvement by decreasing the number of units. It definitely opens it up. In my opinion, it's still kind of tight. I, dread to think what's going to happen on garbage day at 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning when everyone's back and their car's out, trying to put the garbage out, etc., and pulling onto State Road. It is a very congested area, and State Road, the other half is Surrey. So it's a very unique area in that the one street is half and half. So when you get into looking at in terms of widening that road, I don't know if White Rock will be assuming all the costs. They certainly going to need to collaborate with Surrey about that, because, as I said, the other half is Surrey. But there should be some collaboration with that, because it does impact in terms of traffic control. There should be some collaboration regarding Surrey. I know it's not going for approval to Surrey, but in terms of the number of traffic issues that are in that area on State Road. I do have concerns with the little amenity park being at the front of the development. You've added the gates, so that's good. I agree with Joe. I think it would have been more feasible to shift everything down. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Who hasn't spoken? Alex, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, just in terms of, this is to the applicant, so through the chair to the applicant, just in terms of Faye and Joe's comments on shifting the play area to the back, like what is the feasibility of that?
Yes, hello. We would like to do that, but we do need car stacking spots. So generally we can't get a unit that close to the property line and have somebody come in to their unit or come out of their unit and then also leave the site. So that's the reason why that particular building block is pulled, I think it's 6 meters back from the property line. So we need a spot for the cars to stack up.
You're gonna create a bottleneck if you have a unit coming all the way up front.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a transportation requirement that you need it to be a transportation.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about the middle area in the middle of the?
to relocate that children's area?
Yeah, I don't know, Faye, Joe, is that a better place in your mind? Because they can't they need the stacking space for the. Yeah.
Well, the middle area, everybody can see it for one, in my opinion, right? Like the way it's almost hidden at the front, you're not going to have much visibility. Mind you, like I said earlier, it's more of an area for very small toddlers.
Let's not try to solve the problem right now. Let's make sure that we might come back to it, and because we're not going to solve it. The question is, what do we do with it? But the issue's been raised. Let me go on to who hasn't spoken. Jim.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to comment on that hasn't already been reviewed, let's say, over the last two presentations. Overall, form and character, I like it. I like the look of the building. I think the materials and the colors work well. I, too, was sort of missing a perspective, hoping to see. I think that would have looked very sharp, but do get the idea from the 2D presentation. I think that's fine. Maybe an opportunity lost, or maybe it was considered but rejected for whatever reason, but garbage pickup would seem like a more centralized waste and recycling would have worked better on this site rather than having garbage trucks rumbling through the narrow streets. That's assuming that centralized garbage pickup is allowed in White Rock. I don't know if it's too late to reconsider that. And I see electrical closet. I'm wondering, I'm assuming there's gas on site and where the gas meters are on the buildings. That would be a question to the applicant. Are there gas? Is there gas provided?
No, there's no gas meters, no gas to the site. It's supposed to be an all-electric project.
Okay.
Just a sustainability approach.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I don't have much more than that to add. I think overall it's a nice project, though.
Okay, thank you. Rashir, I don't think you spoke yet. Did you summarize your?
Yeah. A lot of improvement since the last time. I really like all the efforts that have gone in, especially taking that unit off has opened up so much of the visual vistas coming into the project. It used to be a kind of a pinched situation. Great improvement. Also, I remember, and I don't have the last plan in front of me, if I remember, there wasn't adequate screening towards the west, which has now been added to the west of the road. So all in all, major improvements everywhere. I really appreciate the small little steps taken to improve and address those issues. I just wanted to ask you, have you guys gone ahead and done the exposure calculations between block 1, block 2? They seem rather close. And there seem in elevation, there seems to be a lot of large glass windows. So whether unprotected openings are in control there between building block 1, block 2, and block 3. So that is something, if you haven't, I guess, probably we need to address that. Anyone can just say that that's been taken care of?
No, we will have a co-consultant on board on the project, and we'll review the unprotected openings. Whether it's through sprinkler protection or anything like that, we'd be doing that. In terms of the layout of the site, it's very similar to other projects that we've done, and we've dealt with limiting distance and exposures as well there.
Sure. It seems rather tight, so I thought I'll quickly ask you that question, and I'm sure you'll work towards it. One more observation is about block 1 layout on second level. If you could open that, please. So I know there isn't too much width available, and there couldn't be much more space available in terms of the unit depth. But if you see the second floor plan, you've placed a balcony and a sliding door, and you have a sectional next to it. Doesn't look like that area is going to work because you don't have too much space, and there isn't much room in expanding the unit anymore, as we see. So just give it a little thought. Rearrange the units wherever to make them very workable. Maybe have a door glazing and a door opening next to the sectional rather than have a sliding door, something like that. So apart from that, I guess most of it is very well thought out. That is something that I don't put the blame on your court, but I'm not very convinced on very little setback towards the state road. We don't even know what the situation is going to be there in terms of boulevard planting trees and how far the steps or the yards are going to be. But all in all, a great improvement, and I support all the work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody's spoken with their comments or at least first set until me? Okay, thank you. We are getting to the 90 minutes, but that's not a fast rule. We'll take the time that's necessary. My comments, certainly the main change was taking away the 1 unit in block 2, I guess it was, yeah, block 2, and that helped in address some various issues. And I got clarity about some other issues I had before. But fundamentally, it's state road and it's a setback. We're told as a panel to focus on, and I will say I like the design of the buildings in terms of pallets and things and otherwise. But the whole thing has been, including the setback, the very limited setback on state road has been forced by the number of units that are being trying to be put on into this site. We're told to focus on the design guidelines, and I take that seriously, and not worry about some of the internal things, what's the form and character, how does it fit within the neighborhood, the design guidelines. That's our main task as a design panel. At least that's my interpretation of it. And we've been told to do that, so I'm going to do it. And I look at one of the 22.6.1A. B, as a design guide, there are very few numerical guidelines, and one of them says set buildings back from the property line at least 3 meters to provide enough space for gardens and shade trees in the front yard. And that's for multifamily. This is multifamily, and it's not doing that. I will say if there is no widening of the road, even though it may be long in the future, I would be okay, certainly with this design. There are improvements that could be made, one of which is about the playground. But if the road is widened, I think there is so many problems, and I have to assume that the road will be widened. Otherwise, what would be the point of taking the right of way? So if we go back to, for example, the red line that we talked about before, that playground will be useless up in the upper right. What happens to it? The idea of a sidewalk along and then stepping down into a 1.5 meter setback. That's not really a setback. That's a setback to the building face, but it's not a real setback that allows anything between the right of way and the house itself. And for all I know, there would be could be a sidewalk there. Hopefully there would be some plantings on the other side of the sidewalk, but we don't know where that road would be. And I go back to some comments that I know Joe made back July about how this is much more like an urban setting rather than a White Rock suburban, having that type of setback. So I'm at when I say a loss, is I would say this is fine given State Road now, but if the road is widened, it's unacceptable. It just doesn't fit. It's not what we should have, and that's sort of my conclusion right now. And I'm not sure what I do as I guess I have to assume the road might be widened, but I do realize that it would be a long time from now. And there are a lot of other places along the road that might present problems for widening the road, including the building, I think, to the north of this, the existing building, which is probably that. But if we let this, I think it was some of the other panel members that once argued appropriately to me that it's important for us to think about precedent. That if we accept the 1.5 meter setback from assuming the widening, because the city would be taking that right of way, then that means that any future building design, whether on State Road or perhaps on other main roads, should be accepted too as a 1.5 meter setback. And that's simply not acceptable to me. So that's where I am. It's about whether or not the road is widened. And I guess at this stage, I have to assume at some point it'll be widened, because this building would be here for 20, 50 years, 60 years. Mm-hmm. So that's where I am right now. I think that we need clarity about the road widening and where the edge of the road would be and what would it be between the road and the building. So that's my comment. I think that Anne has her hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to just speak a little bit more, perhaps, to your comments and your concerns that you have with respect to the road. It is challenging, of course, for the panel, in particular, given that engineering is saying that this road sort of right-of-way piece is going to be necessary for the future of State Road. And of course, we don't know exactly how that's going to shake out because there isn't anything specifically planned. So I can appreciate that this is a bit of an unusual circumstance for the panel in particular with this design. I think when council and when staff review the guidelines of a development permit area against an application, what we do is we look to see how the application is working to try to meet what the intent of that guideline is. So in many cases, an application will not necessarily meet a guideline specifically, but it will show how it is working towards trying to achieve the intention of that particular guideline. So there is likely some flexibility as far as how this application, while not being able to meet the specificity of 3 meters, is trying to show that there is still a setback and that there are still elements in the design that are trying to meet the intent of that guideline. So just to offer the panel with a little bit, perhaps it may be comfort to some of you, it may not be comfort to some of you, but I would just like to put that out there as far as how the review process, we go through it when we're looking at the application from a guideline perspective at the staff level, if that provides any more insight for the panel. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Rushir?
Yeah, I have a follow-up comment to what Anne just pointed out. In most cases, there would be a dedication and there will be a setback. In this situation, there's a right of way which you don't know what's going to happen. If at all, and it would have been clear, like most cases there's a dedication and then there's a setback, and there won't be any problem whether that area is taken out for widening or not. In this situation, when it's not, when the dedication and the setback has not been given, the designer can't do much, and we shouldn't be talking about it, in my opinion. It should be as it is. If a setback has been given to a designer and he's followed that and he's worked with it, then so be it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to say something more about it, and then I'm going to see if we can get a motion, which I think that Paul told me I'm not allowed to make. Does anybody else, before I make a comment, anybody other? Okay, I'm not going to cut people off, though. I agree with Rushir. Somebody made the comment, it is what it is. Well, it's not. We made very strong comments in last July about that setback and concerns about it. and about the density, and that so many of the problems were caused by the number of units that were trying to be put in here. And we asked for it to come back. Well, the setback, which was a significant issue, was not, is the same. And I take that as where we're starting from. It's not that because of the applicant decided not to change it, that we have to accept it. And I don't. I simply, I have to look at it and say it does not, that close to the road, assuming that the road is widened, or at least that we, if, as Ruchir said, if we have to assume that, then it's not acceptable to me as in terms of our guidelines. Not, I don't mean the guidelines. It is 3 meters or 3.5 meters from the property line now. So, you know, it would be acceptable if the road wasn't widened, but if it's widened, it's just not right for this area to step down right at the edge. So that's where I am. And it goes back to, again, the issue about the playground. What happens to that? What happens to other aspects? So I'm just repeating myself. So I'm not allowed to make a motion. I will say that I'd like to hear what are the remaining major issues that people have, and what that, there are a lot of maybe little, you know, we focused on the setback, we focused on the playground. Is there anything else? Those are two, setback from on State Road, the playground area, location of it. Are there any others that are sort of the key issues that might affect your resolution or voting or motion?
Phil, you can make a motion if you want. It's just that in past design panels, the chair usually didn't. He sort of directed things.
I was teasing you a little bit. I have to have some fun as chair.
If you want to make a motion, go ahead. And as far as this widening thing is concerned, it hasn't happened. It may never happen. So that when it does happen, if it does happen, which is highly unlikely probably, then it still works. I'm sorry, I don't have a big problem with it.
Anyone else? But I would want to go back to the two. Is there any other issue other than those that are driving people in terms of how they feel this should be, what our motion might be? I hear Faye, and I have some concerns about the playground and the setback on State that several of us have mentioned. Is there anything else that is? I'm not going to mention parking.
Okay.
You're happy? Okay. Anybody else? So those are the two main issues. Okay, so what's the resolution about where do we go in terms of a motion? My own view, if I can say, because the playground is to some extent related to the setback, to me, the setback, because if it goes to the red line, there's no playground there. The question I have goes back, and I don't know if it's too simplistic a question, is what's the space, would be the space between the edge of the road and the building? And if we had that, then I would have a lot more understanding about what might happen in that right of way and what might happen in terms of the playground. Anybody have a suggestion? A motion? Can I make a motion then? If people think that this is relevant question, I would simply move that we defer this until we have more of an understanding about what happens with respect to the widening of the road. But if that's not going to change anybody, then there's no point in doing that.
Is that the motion then, Phil?
Well, I'm throwing it out as a potential motion. I'd like to, but somebody else would have to make a motion otherwise.
Well, if I may, I mean, it's a fairly significant issue that's outside of our purview. I think that if we vote on the merits of the architecture site planning generally, and then have it noted in the minutes that we had some strong discussion about our concerns about State Road, and leave it to mayor and council to make the decision. It's not really ours to make, I don't think. I mean, from an architectural perspective, yeah, it's not the greatest, but there's too many unknowns, and we're not here to solve those problems or to keep punting back a proponent over and over again, right? At some point, it reminds me of that other project that kept coming back. At some point, we just got to let it go and let mayor and council do what they need to do.
Before we have a motion on that, Faye, let's have a little
I
conversation.
just want to add to Joe's comment. As a resident who lives in White Rock and drives on State Road, I know the issues. The other day, traffic was backed up almost to Marine Drive from 16th. Now that probably doesn't sound like really a big issue, but it is a big issue when you've got time frames of rush hour, etc. So I think City of White Rock, they need to look at State Road, the traffic issues. It is a real concern. There's a lot more people who have moved into this community, and that infrastructure needs to be addressed and brought forward. But I agree with Joe that, you know, for our purpose today, we should have it addressed in the minutes, and they need to review that closely.
Anybody else make a comment or motion? Then let me make a motion just to move it forward. I have concerns. I'm not even sure I would vote for this. That I would not, personally, I would not vote to support it, but I would vote to move it forward to council.
You cannot have a motion, you cannot put forward a motion that you're not supporting, ideally.
At this point, we're looking for a seconder of Joe's motion.
And then and see what the reaction is to it. All right, given Faye and Joe said it, because I can make a motion for it to come back, right?
So we currently have like 3 motions on the table, so we're only supposed to be dealing with one at a time. So
I don't think we have a motion.
Yeah, you made 3 you asked for 3 people made 3 separate motions. So it's like you make a motion, comment, and then you ask for a seconder on the motion.
No, sorry, I misinterpreted. I did not hear a motion.
So Joe put forward.
Did you put forward a formal motion?
No, Alex, I didn't do a formal one. No,
okay.
And I didn't hear either Rashir, or it was more comments about their general view.
Okay, so I'll put forward a motion now. Okay, so that the advisory design panel supports the rezoning application and major development permit for 1453 State Road, subject to close and careful review of the future of State Road vis-a-vis the development. And that's not ours to look at. So that's my motion. Do I have I'm not chair. So is there a seconder, Phil? Do we ask for it?
I'll second that motion. Paul?
Okay. Second it too. I agree with that.
Okay, can we have that read? Did you, Alex, did you get that?
Jordan is actually taking the minutes of this meeting.
Anybody typing this?
Can you read back what you got?
Yes, I have a motion from Joe and moved by second by Paul.
Okay, and the motion is to support the project. That they would like, the ADP would like to note that they would like council to take a closer look at the expansion of State Road and how it affects this development.
Can I a friendly amendment to that, given the wording of I would like the idea of recommendation to support the project proceeding to council
Sure.
Is that okay with you, Joe?
Sounds good.
Subject to, or Joe, I think you're frozen. Can you hear?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Is that, it's about is proceeding to council.
That's correct.
To me, that's an important distinction. It's proceeding to council. It's not saying we think it should be necessarily approved by council, but rather that it's going to council for it to do its job, its work, its review.
It's a recommendation to support the project proceeding to council subject to considerations. And those considerations have been having to do with State Road widening.
Correct. And the setback from the widening of State Road and the setback of the building. Can we, is that acceptable?
That's the way it should read, shouldn't it?
Yes.
I think so. Well, we don't have to use those wording, but I think that that's in our terms of reference as,
Yeah, exactly.
as suggestions. I think it would serve us well. Joe, now you're not frozen. Yep. Are you okay on this?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just want to make sure that Jordan has the right wording. So if we can put the last nail in the coffin and kindly read out the motion as it's minuted so that we make sure that we're voting on the right thing.
Agree. So who can read it back?
Yes, I have. Joe moves and Paul seconds. The future of State Road to be considered by council and during the preceding discussions around the development.
Yeah, I think we have to start with, as Paul had mentioned, a recommendation that the advisory design panel recommends, et cetera, et cetera.
All right,
So
let me take control of this a little bit. Here's my understanding of what the wording I think should be. That the advisory design panel recommends the project proceed to council, subject to council reviewing the relationship of the project to the widening of the future widening of State Road.
That's right.
That's it. That's all we need.
Okay, is that?
I got it.
And are you what? Yes, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to read it back and make sure that we had it, because what I have now, because it's changed a few times here and there, so that's probably where some of the confusion lies. But the recommendation is that the advisory design panel moves that the rezoning or that the project proceed to council, subject to council reviewing the relationship of the project to the future widening of State Road.
Yes, that's good.
Okay, so where it says project, we might want to say the application 41453 State Road, just so we're clear in our motion what project we're talking about, just to help us, you know, record taking long-term, blah, blah, blah. So,
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. And with that, you're obviously, you and Alex there'll be a report going to council, and we'll assume that this widening, you will be explaining to council the concern about the setback. The wording setback is not in that motion, but
you got it. You got it. Yeah, we will speak to that in the report. Absolutely.
Anybody, panel members, before we vote, was that seconded? Let's make sure that the seconder is happy with that.
Yeah,
I'm happy with it.
That was Faye or Paul. Okay, so now, is there any further comments, questions about this motion, or are we ready for a vote?
no, I think we're okay.
Okay, so I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion? I think I've seen everybody. Anybody opposed? I'll vote in favor of that one. Anybody opposed? Okay, good. It passes. We're done. We've done our job. A little bit longer, but you know. All right, so now we're finished. Thank you, applicants. I hope you.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The agenda for today, is there anything, the next thing, quite frankly, is the conclusion, but before we conclude the meeting, is there anything urgent? Actually, we should talk about the next steps for the panel quickly, about the next planned meeting would be June 23? No, June 21 is a tentative, is a date in our calendar. The staff Ann or Alec know whether or not a project might be coming or definitely will or definitely won't? I mean, do we know anything?
Through the chair, I don't have an idea of that at this time now, but just we do have Nitu and Jordan on vacation in June, so there might be a high likelihood that you will not see anything from us because Nitu's gone for 3 weeks and Jordan has gone for a week.
Well, can I ask? I cannot make that meeting.
Okay, so you would like to.
But you can go ahead for it without me. But now my question is there anybody else? I mean, it might help you if we know that there are a number of people. Is there anybody else?
I won't be able to make it myself. I'm gone during that week.
Anybody else?
So am I.
I'm traveling from 3rd of July to 17th of July overseas, and I'm traveling for another assignment from 23rd of June to 27th of June.
Okay.
But you would be potentially available if it became important, unless staff. Alex, are you telling me that it's not possible because of staff to have it on the 21st?
Yeah, I believe so. You wouldn't have the resources to have it on the 21st.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood that. So we can cancel the 21st in our schedule.
Yes.
That's even better.
I'll
All right.
send out an email just to confirm that with everyone, just so everyone has that and we have an official confirmation. But yeah, we can cancel it because we are going to be missing a large portion of our staff complement in the planning department.
But there is a potential for July, and we'll find out about availability through emails and so on.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I will ask Alex and Ann to think about, now you've observed us. Now, I'm not sure this is a typical meeting. The others can comment about that. I tend to allow people to wander in some of their comments and just so that we have a conversation as opposed to a strict Robert's Rules of Order and so on. But you've seen that, you know that some of you're transitioning into a different type of minutes system perhaps, and you have experience, both of you, with design panels elsewhere, as do Joe and Rushir, for example. They're on other design panels, maybe Jim too. So do you think about whether you want to, it would be worthwhile in July if we have time, if we have a meeting and have time, not just for this, but maybe there's one project and we can squeeze some time in to talk about how we operate.
For sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
Thank you for your time today, guys. It's much appreciated.
I have one quick question since
Okay.
everybody's still on. Is there anybody planning on attending the volunteer committee dinner?
16th.
On the June 16th. Just asking.
I'm still thinking it's a COVID issue, quite frankly. I'm avoiding.
Okay.
I don't like to get near people.
Well, it's good having these meetings virtually then.
This is perfect for me.
One last comment here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just to make it smoother in future, if possible, in the terms of reference for ADP, it has four standard motions that it recommends us to take. It does give an option of constructing an alternate motion, but if we can stick to one of those, it usually becomes smoother, easier, quicker, and it is reasonably comprehensive to accommodate all types of projects, or most kind of projects. I should not say all.
Yeah,
That's it. Thank you.
I think it has served us well. We did discuss having the change from reject to support, as you recall.
Yeah.
Just as a
Well-
reminder, Phil, you need to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh.
whenever you-
Sure.
If there's something else, somebody want to move to adjourn, or I'll just adjourn?
Adjourn the meeting.
I second it, and any vote?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to click to disconnect. Thank you.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
night.
Enjoy the
Bye,
sun.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.